This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there and happy Thursday. It is Thursday. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Welcome to She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. I really appreciate you being here today. My guest today is Samantha Mabe, who is a brand and website designer over at her business, Lemon and the Sea. Samantha helps creative entrepreneurs share their vision through design. A Pittsburgh native now living in Richmond, Virginia, her background is in design and architecture. She spends her days designing and her evenings watching Netflix with her husband and their dog, Gambit, which I love. And we bonded over, I think, because I knew that her dog was named for the X-Men. And I think I knew that because I have 3 brothers. So good job, Kinsey. And also love that name, Samantha. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was really tactical and practical. And as I mentioned, Samantha is a brand and website designer. So we don't talk too much about branding today. We do get into it a little bit, but really more what we talk about is how to structure your website so that it's an awesome user experience for your couples, for the brides who are landing on your site, and how you can move them through your site and encourage them to stay and get to know you so you have that know, like, and trust factor, right? And so that eventually they'll contact you. Samantha has some really awesome, easy to implement ideas for all of us, especially if you have a Squarespace site. If you're working off of WordPress, I don't know a lot about it. Samantha is a Squarespace designer, so I did want to bring her on because I know a lot of wedding industry professionals are using Squarespace right now. So either way, even if you're not using Squarespace, I still think you'll get a lot out of this interview. So make sure to hit Samantha up at the Lemon and the Sea. She is, or lemonandthesea.com. And also check out her new podcast, which is called Process to Profitability. It is a focus on all of the processes that you should have in place in your business, which really do lead to more profit in your business because you are focused and organized and have those processes in place. She does some great interviews over there. So without further ado, let's go to the show. Samantha Mabe, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Hi, I'm so glad to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. So for those of you listening, Samantha and I kind of already know each other because we have, in fact, shared a room. We were at the VIP Intensive in DC together, so it was fun.
It was.
Yeah, it was so fun. And so I feel like I know you very well. But this will be a great interview because I was telling Samantha offline, you guys, she sent me some awesome bullet points for what we're going to talk about today, which is how to design a website that makes it easy for people to hire you. And I just died over that topic. I was like, yes, please. And then when she sent me the bullet points, I was like, girlfriend, yeah. So I would love to dive in. I gave everyone kind of your professional bio there at the top of the show, but just really briefly, Samantha, if you would kind of tell us what you do outside of this podcast and, how you make money, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I am a brand and website designer, and I design only on Squarespace right now, but I help creative women in all kinds of businesses to get their brand, sort of their vision out there and get online with a professional website. And I love working with wedding professionals because all of them have great images and things to share that are really unique in the industry.
Oh, yeah. So I think you most recently designed a brand for a wedding planner. Is that right?
Yes, I did a brand for a wedding planner. I've worked with some videographers and photographers and all sorts of people in the wedding industry.
Okay, so can you kind of take us through that process a little bit? Let's talk about specifically the wedding planner just to make it easy. What did that process kind of look like? Did they already come with content and photos? And what did that look like from your end as the brand and web designer?
Sure. She started with a business that just had a landing page and she was getting referrals. So she was ready to create a professional brand and a website that was going to speak to her ideal client. Mm-hmm. So we started with questionnaires to really dig into what that meant for her and what made her business unique. And from there, we then designed a mood board and got her color palette settled and then went into logo design. And once that was done, she provided me with all of her website content, all of the copy for the website, all of the images, and I turned it into a website she could use, and then we went back and forth to get everything finalized.
That's awesome. You know what? I've always have a question about designing sites from scratch. When you design like the vision and specifically, I guess, the mood board and the colors, how does that look? I mean, what does she just say? Like, I like pink or I like blue. You know what I mean? Like, how does that look from a perspective of working with you to kind of pull out what colors do you actually like in your brand?
Some people will tell me they like specific colors or don't like specific colors, but I also like to know the style of their brand or what feeling they want their brand to have, and that will help me pick colors. Okay. And a lot of times I'll send it over, they might have some adjustments, and we will go from there. And many people find that if they look in their closets or the way they decorate their homes, those are the colors they're most drawn to, and that pops up a lot in what we end up with as a color palette.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, smart. I can see that because that's their personal taste. Like, that is their true personality.
Yep.
Cool. Well, okay. So one of your first bullet points when you and I were kind of going back and forth on email, deciding like what would be an awesome topic to bring to the podcast, one of the first things that you said that I thought was so brilliant was we should be designing a website that really fits our brand and, as you just mentioned, our personal style, but also something that your dream client would be interested in as they land on your site. And so immediately when they land, your ideal client is already interested in you. So kind of take us through what that means from your perspective when you're designing for, let's say, a wedding client.
With wedding clients, a lot of that is in choosing their imagery.
Okay.
And really conveying your message up front as to what makes you different in the wedding industry. It's really easy to say, I was a little girl and I loved weddings and that's why I went into the wedding industry, but tell a little bit more of your story and the heart behind your business. And the biggest thing I find is that everybody has a different style, especially that you see in their images. And you don't want to design a website that looks like everybody else's just because you think that's what you're supposed to do. So if you have sort of dark, moody images, your website should not be bright pink and gold and pops of color because it doesn't match.
Mm-hmm. And so when we are, I guess, well, let's talk about photos then. So I assume you would probably call that like a portfolio of images. You kind of touched on that. When we're thinking of our portfolio, can you give us tips on designing one that really is going to be attractive?
Yeah, I love designing portfolios because I love looking through other people's images. And I always tell them to pick out the projects that they're most proud of that they want to do again, whether that was clients that they really loved or a style that they really loved, because you can't put every project on your portfolio as you grow and have lots of weddings under your belt. So you want to narrow down on the things that are what you actually want to be producing in the future.
Okay.
And then I like to have them sort of label each of those items either by the location of the venue or the style of the wedding instead of just the names, because it's going to speak more to people as they're looking rather than just seeing the name of the couple.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so you mean like in the actual portfolio saying like here are some outdoor light and airy weddings, or here are some fall like jewel tone weddings, like that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And so when we mean portfolio, for those who are listening who may not know exactly what we're saying, can you kind of tell us like actually logistically what that looks like on a website? What do we mean by that?
So on your website, you're going to have a portfolio page or a events page that features images and testimonials of events that you've actually done. And that can be events you were paid for, or it can be styled shoots. And what you're going to do is usually you have one page that's your portfolio page that features like one image from each with a little bit of information. They click on that and then they go to a bigger page that has more detail about that specific event with lots of images. You can include testimonials. That's where you're going to link to any vendors that you need to give credit to and talk about the story behind the event and really how you got to what it is that you produced.
So would you say that bigger page is a blog post or no?
It can be. A lot of times what I have people do is have a bigger page through their portfolio and then have a blog post as well with more details, and you can actually link between them so that people can see your sort of professional portfolio, and then on the blog they get a behind the scenes look into things.
Okay. So is that bigger page, like on Squarespace, and since you design specifically on Squarespace, if we're on our portfolio and I click on, let's say I want to click on this like jewel tone fall themed wedding, and then I go to the bigger page that's not a blog post, but it's a little bit more information, is that an unlinked page, or is that linked up somewhere as well since it's not a blog post?
It would be under your unlinked pages on Squarespace, and then you're just going to link it through whatever they're going to click on your portfolio page that will be in your top menu.
Right. Okay. That makes total sense. That's kind of like the nitty gritty, but okay. Get
it.
I was wondering, because I was like, okay, how are we navigating through all of these pages? So that's brilliant. Okay, here's what I want to really dig into. You told me that one of the things you're passionate about is really mapping out the way people move through your website so that you're directing them through kind of the way you want them to go. Tell us why that's important, how you help your clients do that, and what we can do on our own sites to kind of make sure that we're following, that sort of process so that we're getting the most out of our site.
Okay. Well, to start out, it's important because every website has a goal. And if you're in the wedding industry, that goal is most likely going to be to have someone contact you to hire you. So you want your website to work them to that point. Or if they're not an ideal client, you want your website to sort of turn them away so that you're not dealing with inquiries that are really not a good fit for you. So the way that I like to do that with my clients is to have them tell me what the purpose of their website is, and then figure out the purpose of each page of your website. So on your homepage, you're probably not going to have people contact you as soon as they land on the homepage of your website. They don't know you yet. So instead of directing them straight to contacting you or looking at your services, you might direct them to the blog so they can learn more about how you work, or to your portfolio so they can see examples of what you do. And then as they move through the website, you're going to direct them to each next step and end on that contact page or a page to schedule a call or book with you, however you want to arrange that for your business.
Oh, smart. Well, and you kind of, that's what you do for your clients on just the portfolio was one example of that. Like, here's your portfolio. It's an overview. And then each click is a deeper dive a little bit into each style. And then you could also link that up into a blog post. Like, that is so purposeful, what you recommend your clients to do just from their portfolio page.
Right.
Man, there's so much thought behind this. Okay, what are some other tips for mapping out our website? Like, let's maybe talk about like 2 specific pages, or maybe 1 or 2. What are like the 1 or 2 pages that you feel are most important for a wedding professional that should just be like super tight, spot on, that can help us book our ideal client?
The About page is always a big one.
Okay.
And it's a really hard one to write for most people. I know I have a hard time writing my own About page, but that's where you're going to tell your ideal clients how you can help them. You're going to give them some fun facts about you and what you do. And then you want to direct them to whatever that next step is. So usually from the About page, that's going to be looking at your portfolio. So now they know a little bit more about you. They know if they're a good fit for you. They're starting to get an idea of who it is that you work with most of the time. And then you're going to say, now that you know this, you should go check out my portfolio. And you're going to just create a button on Squarespace or WordPress or whatever your website is. Create a button that says view my portfolio and send them to that top portfolio page. And that's where they're going to get to look at your work.
Oh, smart. I have a question before. Okay, so the About page is really, sorry, I don't want to forget. I'm going to make a note here. The About page, what's another page that's really important?
I think the home page is important, and it's a little bit different the way to set that up.
Okay.
So on your home page, like I said, you're not inviting them right to your schedule a call because they're not ready for that most of the time.
Right.
So you want to usually give them a couple of options. You're going to send them to the blog if they want to learn more about the behind the scenes. You can also send them to your about page to learn more about you. Those are the two big ones. And that's where they're going to get more information and get, really pulled into what you do. And then they're going to want to learn more about how you can help them.
Okay. How important, or not, I know it's important, but how do you decide what imagery goes on the homepage since you're going to have a portfolio of all of your imagery? What's the decision process like? So, because it's the first page people land on.
Yeah, I really like to choose images for the homepage that reflect your brand colors and reflect the feeling you want your brand to have. Those are going to be the first images people see. So they're either going to attract people or they're going to turn people away at like the first thing. So you want those images to be something that your ideal client or your ideal couple is going to connect with right away.
Okay.
And I also like to use images that are in the same color palette on that page, whether that's all from the same event or just sort of similar feelings so that it looks really consistent.
Oh, okay. Good point there. Okay, sorry, this is totally random, but I feel like you probably have a good answer to this because I know we're talking about images in the homepage, but with information on our websites, tell me what your thought is about putting pricing on your website.
I like putting pricing on websites.
You do? Okay, like even for wedding professionals?
I like to at least put a starting price.
Okay, tell me. Let's dig in. Tell me.
I think that if you don't have any pricing, it can scare people into thinking you're way too expensive for them, and they're just not even going to contact you.
Oh.
And I look at it this way. If I were to go to somebody's website to hire them for something like a wedding or even for web design, I would want to know what I could expect as an initial investment. And so I'm assuming that the people I want to work with are going to want that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so,
I love that.
Yeah, so if you just give a starting price, that's going to give them an idea of, are you way outside of their budget? Are you in their budget? And you can help bring in more inquiries for people who might have thought you were too expensive, but also the people that are looking for weddings that are way below what you normally charge. They're going to have an idea of that, and so they're probably not going to get in contact with you.
Totally. Okay, so I'm with you on that. Right now, we don't put our pricing directly on our site, but like for my venue, but what I have done is created like an experience guide that people who are just inquiring can opt in for. So it's like a win-win for me, like a win for me and a win for them because they opt into my list, but then they also automatically get that like pretty PDF that's styled that has our pricing in it. So it's not like they have to wait for someone to get back to them. But one thing that I had Sarah, her name was Sarah Rizzi, she's a planner out of DC. One thing that she said, she does list her pricing on her site and she loves to do it because she's with you. She's like, I may get less inquiries because my pricing is there, but I get the right ones because they're not scared of my pricing.
Yeah. And a PDF is a great way to do that too, as long as you're not having to send them that email. They can get it automatically either by downloading it or signing up for your email list, then they're going to get that information without you having to go back and forth with them.
Yeah, and that's what we do. So we use ConvertKit and it's on one of those automated sequences and then they're in our welcome sequence. But I wonder, I keep going back and forth on that. I'm like, okay, as a consumer, I'm the same, Samantha. I'm like, I just want to know, like, give me the information. But as a business owner, I'm thinking, okay, how can we do this to like keep interest, but build our list and also give them the information? There's so many like things to process.
Right. And I think it's something that you can test and change for your own website and the people you're trying to reach. If it seems like it's not working to have your pricing on your website, take it off for a little bit and see what that does to your inquiries and who's inquiring and how that's working. And if you find that it's better for your business, then go ahead and leave them off. That's why I like websites that you can just play around with, test and change, see what's going to work for you and your business.
Oh, I was just thinking that. We're on the same brainwave. I was like, you know what? That's why Squarespace is so awesome, because you can change things so easily. Like if you want to test, take it off your prices. You don't have to call up, your like coding person and say, hey, can you uncode this button? And they're like, sure, in a week when I'm available.
Right. You can just do it yourself and
yes.
save it and put it out there.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so I love your opinion on that. I'm glad we talked about that. Tell me about creating our FAQ page, because I feel like the FAQ page is sometimes underutilized and it has a lot of potential, and I feel like you probably agree.
I do.
Okay,
I think the FAQ page is a really important page because it's going to save you so much time when people have questions. So this is the page where you're going to answer questions that you get a lot, or questions that you think are really important for people to know and they don't know to ask.
Okay, like what? So
a lot of times it's talking about how far in advance that you should book with whatever whatever service you're offering. If how you work, your process is a big one to include on your FAQ page. You can and if you have a service that's a little bit not quite normal, you want to talk about what it means for people and what you do and how you serve them so that they understand exactly what it is that they're going to get from working with you. Mm-hmm. I also like to include a little bit of information about yourself. So if people ask you a lot of questions about you personally, you can include some of those answers there and just insert some of your personality.
Oh, that's smart. I haven't heard that. Tell me more, can you give me an example or two of maybe what would be, as a web designer, give me one of those examples. What would you say about yourself?
So on mine, I have an FAQ about how my business, Lemon and the Sea, got its name, because I get that question all the time.
Oh, cool.
And I also have just what my background is. So how I got into website and brand design, because I sort of got there through a roundabout path, and I'm telling that story on that page so that people know that I'm not just putting up a website and deciding to be a website designer because I felt like it.
Sure. I hear you. I love that. That's a cool idea. And then also, so should we be linking to other pages on our FAQ page? And how does that work with the process of working our people through our website in a cohesive, effective way? What does that look like?
I think you can link people to other pages, especially if you're talking about yourself. You can link them to your About page to learn a little bit more. But the main link you're going to put is at the bottom, sort of after all of those FAQs. Then you're going to direct them back to either getting in touch with you or going back and looking at your services. Now that they have the answers to some of the questions that they might email you about, they can, get in contact with you for something that hasn't been answered, or they can look at your services because now they have their questions answered and they're ready to hire you.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Let's kind of talk about, okay, so we've got our homepage, our About page, our FAQ, our portfolio. We've talked a little bit about blogging. I have two questions. Let's talk a little bit more about blogging on the Squarespace platform and what your thoughts are on it as far as should we be doing it as professionals in the wedding industry? I'm assuming you're going to say yes. And then let's kind of tie that in with SEO for Squarespace. I feel like that can come up a lot, especially if someone's been on WordPress before or they know, WordPress, SEO plugin, Yoast, yay. Let's kind of tie those in and talk about how Squarespace is an awesome platform and that it does have SEO capabilities. What are your thoughts on those two things?
Well, like you said, yes, you should be blogging.
Yes.
And blogging and any website content, but blogging especially, is a great way to increase your SEO because you're posting consistently and you're adding new content to your website, which Google really likes. Mm-hmm. And in your blog posts, you're probably naturally going to be talking about things that are your SEO keywords, and you can make sure that you're including those, but it's going to come up naturally to say a wedding in whatever place you're at, because that's what people are going to want to find out from a blog. But you can make it conversational. You can make it fun. It doesn't have to be like you're just writing out all your keywords in a long string in order to have Google find you.
Right. Would you say that putting a bunch of keywords, like we're, of course, on Squarespace, the same is true, but they're like, you need to title your images appropriately. And, of course, do put your keywords and like your title tags and all of that. But would you say that, especially in 2017, is new helpful content kind of more important than making sure like my homepage says Colorado Wedding Barns in Colorado, barns in Colorado for weddings?
Yes. Google has sort of figured out all of the tricks that people used to use in the past. So people used to write in all their keywords on their website and then make it white text so you couldn't see it.
Right.
And Google knows. It's pretty smart. So it knows if you're trying to trick it or if you're actually producing content that people are going to want to find. And that's what they're trying to provide as a service, is content that's going to be relevant to whatever somebody is searching for.
Love that. So tell me, one of the tips that you gave about, especially, I think this is especially helpful if we're kind of DIYing our sites, or if we are ready to book with a website designer like you, Samantha. Maybe we don't know, we kind of need to go to the source, I think, to find out what should our website have. And one of your recommendations is having someone go through your site and giving you feedback, someone that's not you, like maybe a former client or a friend. I love that tip. Can you kind of dig into that a little bit more and why that could be helpful to us?
Sure. I think it is especially helpful when you're DIYing a site, but it's even helpful for me as a website designer. You are not going to see all the mistakes that you make on your website because you know it so well.
Right.
You know exactly what it should say. You know exactly how it should look. So you're going to tend to overlook things that other people might notice, or because you know your industry so well, people might have questions that you haven't thought to answer. So I like to have either a former client or even a friend or a spouse go through your website and say, look at this from start to finish. Tell me if it makes sense. Tell me if you see any mistakes. Let me know if there's something that I should add or that doesn't need to be here. And it's really cool and helpful to watch them navigate through your site, because you're going to know if they're taking the journey you want them to take, or if they are like jumping around to other things and maybe you need to adjust, how you're directing them through your website.
Brilliant. And you're so right. That's so easy. I feel like there's been times where I just skip over the same word every time. And then someone's finally like, you misspelled the. And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah. So it's the same as if you were to turn in an essay in school, you're probably going to want someone to proofread it. You're going to want someone to do that for your website.
So such a good idea. I love it. And even someone, I feel like this would be a great job for somebody who's not even in the, just a friend who is not going to book with you, who is not in the industry, who's maybe even not really a creative entrepreneur, because they're just like an individual who needs to go through this site for the first time, because that's a really great test.
Yeah. And especially in the wedding industry, the people you're serving aren't creative entrepreneurs. They aren't people who are familiar with online businesses.
That's right.
So someone who's outside of all that can tell you, this might make sense to you and the people you talk to every day, but it makes no sense to the people who are actually trying to hire you for their wedding.
That is so, so true. Yes. Thank you for saying that. Okay, we have covered so much. I have copious amounts of notes. These show notes, you guys, are going to just be jam-packed, because I want to make sure you remember like the portfolio workflow and everything she talked about, the about page and the home page. So if you're listening in your car while you're working out or wherever you take the podcast, don't worry, I got your back. I'm going to make sure the show notes are legit on this one. Samantha, I would love to know, you own your own business. I know you're married. Like, what tools are you using in your business to like keep your work-life balance as balanced as possible and keep your business running on the back end?
I love my Google Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I schedule all of my work appointments in there, and then I have a personal calendar, and my husband has a calendar that's shared with me, so I know exactly what each of us is doing, and I can schedule around the things that maybe I need to be there at events for him, or I can tell him, nope, I've got a lot of work today. And he can see my calendars as well, so he knows what's coming up on my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I also love Asana for keeping all of my to-do list items sort of organized. I have a project for each of my clients and then a project for my business. And if it is not on Asana, it's probably not going to get done.
It does not exist in the world.
Yes.
What else do you use?
I just started using Dubsado, which is a client management system, and I love it because it eliminates a lot of the other programs I used to have to use. Mm-hmm. So I can do my contracts and my invoices and emails and proofing and everything in there, which saves me a ton of time and makes it really easy for my clients.
Yes, I use Dubsado too for VistaView events, and I love their interface. It's really clean looking and easy to understand what each thing is. Like when I first logged in, before I knew anything, it was very intuitive to figure out how to set up workflow and automated emails and things of that nature.
Yeah, and they have a client portal, so it's really easy for clients to then go and find all of that information in one place instead of having to search through their emails or go to all the different locations you've set them up with.
Yes, so true. And I actually just got this email yesterday as of this recording, or 2 days ago maybe. They just integrated with Gmail. So, hello.
Yes, they did.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, this is kind of a fun question. What are you loving right now? What are you listening to? I mean, this does not have to be business related. Like, do you have a binge on Netflix happening right now? Do you have a Spotify playlist? It's your jam. What podcasts are playing? Any of those things. Tell me the goods.
I am a big podcast listener, and for me, it's business and anything true crime or science facts.
Ooh, science facts. I love it.
So it's kind of a wide range of things, but Breakdown, which is from a newspaper in Atlanta, just came out with a new season of their podcast, mm-hmm. and Serial just came out with a new sort of break off of their podcast, so I'm listening to both of those.
What's their break off called? Is it called Serial or?
It's called S-Town.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so they released all 7 episodes on the same day, so I'm trying to get caught up.
So you're catching up. But do you like it?
I do. It's a little bit different because it's with a different host, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's produced really well, so that's a good thing.
That really well. Let me ask you what you thought of season 1 of Serial versus season 2 of Serial. I feel like this is a debate.
I did not like season 2 nearly as much.
Yes.
But I also did not jump on the Serial train until after the first season was over. So I listened to everything in a span of a week or something.
Yes. Same.
And then for the second season, I listened to it as it came out. And I just felt like it wasn't as engaging. Maybe it's because I like the true crime stuff and it wasn't about that. But
yeah,
I'm definitely a first season fan.
Totally fair. I agree. And you know what? I totally will always have a soft spot in my heart for Serial because I'm like you. I did listen after it was a big deal, but I love Serial because they put, even though podcasting has been around for 12 years, they put podcasting on the map for just everyday people. So thank you, Serial, for doing that.
Yes. I don't think I listened to podcasts before that. So
yeah, there you go. See? Point made. So I'll always have a little soft spot for them no matter what they do. Cool. Well, Samantha, this has been super informative and so much fun. And before we go, I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you online.
So I'm online at lemonandthesea.com and on all of the social media platforms at lemonandthesea. It's not a common name, so I got to pick all of the right tags on social media.
Woo!
And I actually created a website design guide for your listeners that's at lemonandthesea.com/she creates.
Yes.
So that they can find some of that information that we went over so they don't have to try to take notes.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. You guys, lemonandthesea.com/she creates.
Yep.
Perfect. And that will be at the top, middle, and bottom of the show notes. So go ahead and grab that because I know that Samantha took way better notes and is way smarter about web design than I am. Samantha Mabe, thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure to chat with you again. And I will talk to you very soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.